Imagine a world where one man rules over 40% of the entire human population. One king, one law stretching from the borders of India all the way to the shores of Greece. It sounds like a fantasy novel, doesn't it? But 2,500 years ago, this wasn't fiction. It was the Persian Empire. This is a land that has been conquered by Alexander the Great, trampled by Mongol hordes, and transformed by Islamic revolutions. Yet through it all, it has never lost its soul. Most people today see Iran through the lens of modern news cycles and geopolitical tension. But what if I told you that the ground beneath Tehran holds the secrets to the first declaration of human rights, the birth of algebra, and a culture that refused to die for 3 millennia? Welcome to the hidden past. Today, we're condensing 3,000 years of fire, blood, and gold into just 10 minutes. Strap in, because the history of Iran is nothing like what you've been told. To understand Iran, we have to go back to 550 BC, before the Romans had an empire, before the Great Wall of China was finished. There was Cyrus. Now, forget the image of a bloodthirsty tyrant. Cyrus the Great was different. When he marched into Babylon, he didn't burn it to the ground. Instead, he freed the slaves and told the people they could worship whatever god they chose. He recorded this on a clay cylinder, what many call the world's first charter of human rights. Imagine being a citizen in an era of absolute brutality, and suddenly your conqueror tells you that you are free. This was the Achaemenid Empire. They built the Royal Road, a highway system so efficient that couriers could travel 1,600 miles in 7 days. The Greeks were mesmerized by them. They called the Persian capital, Persepolis, the wealthiest city under the sun. But as every historian knows, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. Enter the man every schoolchild knows, Alexander the Great. In 330 BC, the unstoppable Persian machine met a young Macedonian with a point to prove. In a series of brutal battles, Alexander dismantled the empire, and in a moment of either drunken madness or calculated revenge, burned Persepolis to the ground. The Golden Age was over. Or was it? Here is the first big mystery of Iran. Every time someone conquers this land, the land ends up conquering them. Alexander's generals began dressing like Persians. They married Persian women. The Greek influence didn't destroy Iran, it merged with it. But the Greeks were just a footnote. A few centuries later, a new power rose from the dust, the Parthians, followed by the Sassanians. These were the true arch-nemesis of the Roman Empire. Think about the most epic rivalry you know. For over 400 years, the world was a seesaw. On one side, Rome, on the other, the Sassanian Persians. They were equals. They were the two eyes of the world. The Sassanians were masters of heavy cavalry, the cataphracts, knights covered in mail armor from head to toe long before the Middle Ages. They built arched palaces so massive they still defy logic today. But while Persia and Rome were busy exhausting each other in endless border wars, a storm was brewing in the deserts of Arabia, a storm that no one, not the Caesars nor the Persian Shahs, saw coming. In the 7th century, the Sassanian Empire collapsed under the weight of the Arab conquests. This is the moment everything changed. The ancient religion of Zoroastrianism, the faith of fire temples and sky burials, began to fade, replaced by Islam. Now, you'd think this would be the end of Persia, right? Wrong. This is where the story gets fascinating. The Persians didn't just accept a new culture. They took the administrative tools, the art, and the science of their ancestors and injected them into the heart of the Islamic world. Imagine a golden age where the smartest people on the planet all lived in the same region. This was the era of the Persian polymaths. Think about the word algorithm. It's named after Al-Khwarizmi, a Persian mathematician. Think about modern medicine. It was shaped by Avicenna, whose medical textbooks were used in Europe for 600 years. While Europe was struggling through the Dark Ages, Persians were mapping the stars and writing some of the most beautiful poetry ever conceived. Writers like Rumi and Hafez created a literary soul for the nation that survives to this day.
But just as the ink was drying on these great works, the horizon turned black with dust. In the 13th century, the Mongols arrived. Genghis Khan's armies didn't just defeat cities, they erased them. Historians say the irrigation systems were destroyed and the population was decimated. It was an apocalypse. But remember the Persian mystery I mentioned earlier? It happened again. Within 2 generations, the Mongol rulers converted to Islam, started commissioning Persian art, and began speaking the Persian language. The barbarians became the patrons of the very culture they tried to destroy. Iran is like a sponge. It absorbs its conquerors until they disappear.
Fast forward to 1501. A teenager named Ismail I rides out and declares himself Shah. He founds the Safavid dynasty and does something that defines the modern Middle East. He makes Shia Islam the official religion. This created a hard border between Iran and the Sunni Ottoman Empire to the west. This was the birth of the modern Iranian state. Their capital, Isfahan, was so stunning that travelers called it half the world. Imagine walking across bridges that looked like lace under domes covered in hypnotic blue tiles. It was a peak of human aesthetics. But as we move into the 1800s, the world changes. The age of kings is being replaced by the age of steam and oil. Iran found itself caught in the Great Game, a Cold War between the British Empire and the Russian Empire. Both wanted Iran's resources, and both wanted its location. The once mighty lion was being poked and prodded by colonial powers. This leads us to the 20th century, the most turbulent 100 years in the country's history. In the 1920s, a soldier named Reza Shah took power, starting the Pahlavi dynasty. He wanted to turn Iran into a secular, westernized powerhouse overnight. He banned traditional veils, built railways, and changed the country's name internationally from Persia to Iran. But there was a problem: oil. In 1953, when a popular prime minister named Mohammad Mossadegh tried to nationalize Iran's oil, taking it back from the British, the CIA and MI6 stepped in. They orchestrated a coup, overthrew him, and handed absolute power back to the Shah. Think about that for a second. A foreign-backed coup in the name of oil. This event planted a seed of resentment that would grow for 25 years. The Shah lived like a billionaire while the gap between the rich and the poor widened. He threw a party in 1971 to celebrate 2,500 years of monarchy that cost an estimated $100 million, served by French chefs, while parts of the country struggled. The tension snapped in 1979. A massive, sweeping revolution saw the Shah flee, and an exiled cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, return to lead the new Islamic Republic. The Iran we see today, the headlines, the sanctions, the nuclear talks, is the result of this 1979 earthquake. It was a total rejection of Western influence and a return to a theocratic identity. But if you look closely, underneath the politics, the 3,000-year-old heart still beats. The people still celebrate Nowruz, the ancient Persian New Year. They still recite the poetry of Rumi. They still see themselves as the heirs to Cyrus the Great. So what is the lesson of 3,000 years of Iranian history? It's resilience. This is a culture that has been invaded, occupied, and transformed, yet it has never been erased. Empires rise, they reach for the stars, and they crumble into the sand, but the Persian spirit remains. From the golden halls of Persepolis to the bustling streets of modern Tehran, Iran is a reminder that while politics are temporary, culture is eternal. If you found this journey through time as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe to The Hidden Past. We've only scratched the surface of these ancient mysteries. What part of history should we uncover next? Let me know in the comments. And remember, the past isn't dead. It's just waiting to be found.